is the biggest bad guy character in professional wrestling?
When's the last time you got laid?
French Toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Like, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Can we tell the truth about Dusty sooner or later?
Less people wanted that than are currently watching our streams.
And you know Vince, and you still think, are these true? It's like...
Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mark It Down podcast. I'm James Gisanti, and it is Thursday night. You know what that means. We're in the Gym Pack Zone, where we cover all things TNA and Impact. I love tonight. Tonight gave me everything I needed. Tonight gave me a lot of great wrestling. It gave me some very good story development, and it gave me a lot of entertainment. Absolutely enjoyed tonight's show. We started with a bang as we had the Ultimate X qualifier series continue with another triple threat to determine who would continue on to Ultimate X at Bound for Glory. We saw last week Speedball Mike Bailey, the X Division champion, put his championship on the line and put himself in the qualifier, not needing to because he's a crazy man, but an honorable champion nonetheless. Tonight we're starting with Chris Bay of the ABC, one half of the TNA Tag Team Champions, taking on John Skyler of the Good Hands and Riley Osborne. Riley Osborne, who is from NXT and a member of Chase University. Chase U having a great week so far already as they won the NXT Tag Team Championships on Tuesday, this last Tuesday's episode of NXT. This was a fun matchup. Right out the gate, we had Skyler, who we haven't seen in a while. We haven't seen the Good Hands wrestle on TV in quite a bit. He gets on the microphone and he talks about how he and his partner, Jason Hotch, both have the same goal, that X will be coming down at Bound for Glory, and it will be because of these good hands. That was pretty good. That was a good line. Corny, but a good line. As he's doing his shtick, we have Riley come out next, and then joining commentary is the king of TNA himself, or I should say the self-proclaimed king of TNA himself, Frankie Kazarian. Frankie, who is just everybody's favorite, especially Tom Hannafin. Absolutely adores him, doesn't he? You could tell. There's so much love there between Tom Hannafin and Frankie Kazarian. Frankie making it clear that he's smarter than everyone else in TNA because he plans on entering Ultimate X. He plans on winning his qualifier and then immediately cashing in that X Division championship so he could use option C and then cash it in for the TNA World Championship. He says he respects the X Division. He respects the X Division Championship. He's an OG X Division wrestler. But that belt has no value to him at this point. He wants to go for the World Championship. I don't know how I feel about wrestlers saying it, even heels. I like Frankie, and I think his goal of being the TNA World Champion makes a lot of sense for his character, and it makes a lot of sense for him to use Option C. Hell, he used it already back in, I think, 2022. He failed, but he used Option C before. But to outright say how little he values the X Division Championship because it matters more to be the world champion, it really devalues everything they've been doing with that belt and how it was never a mid-card belt. It was just its own division. So not entirely sure how I feel about that style of talking or that line of speaking, but it is what it is. If someone's going to say it, I'm glad it's a heel, and I'm glad it's somebody who is undeniably a X Division legend in his own right. But right out the gate, Riley and Bay team up to take out John Skyler, throwing him out of the ring. Bay hitting a tope suicida, knocking him out. As Riley is distracted, Bay goes for that, we all know it, we all expect it, that initial betrayal pin, that roll up, and only gets a 2 count. Riley is able to give him credit. You almost had him this close, but that was it. Both men exchange athletic attempts at downing one another, with Riley getting the upper hand after a running hurricanrana. But then he gets caught by Skyler and is put into a Boston Crab until Bay is able to intervene and distract Skyler. Riley then throws Bay to the outside and hits a great tope suicida to both of his opponents before bringing Skyler back into the ring and hitting a crisp Falcon Arrow. I gotta say, you guys know, unfortunately, I'm just not too tuned into NXT. I've heard excellent things about everything Chase U. Everything Chase University seems to be gold, but this is really my first time seeing Riley Osborne, and I can tell you, he impressed. I get why he's here. And this is the first time where I feel that TNA is really getting something of value so far. I don't want to say it's the first time, but man, we are definitely getting something great here with Riley. After that Falcon Arrow and only getting a 2 count, we get towards the finish as Chris Bay hits a beautiful springboard cutter onto Riley, and that allows Skyler just enough time to grab Bay, throw him shoulder first into the corner, into the post, taking him out of the match. He then tries to arrogantly cover Riley, who's able to counter it into a pin of his own, only getting a 2 count, but then able to drop Skyler and then hit a picture perfect shooting star press. This kid got air, guys. He looked phenomenal. He hits that shooting star press and gets the 1-2-3, securing his spot in the Ultimate X match. And commentary noted, this is the first time in history an active WWE superstar, even if it's NXT, will be competing in the Ultimate X match. So I think this is really cool. I think we're going to be getting a really great addition with this kid, with Riley Osborne. And I'm hoping to see more of him in the Impact Zone moving forward. We then go, not quite backstage, but I'm going to call it a backstage segment. I'm going to call it a backstage interview, as Nic Nemeth pulls to the arena, driving a beautiful car. And as soon as he gets out of his car, he's got his TNA World Championship on his shoulder. I think he picked it up. I really don't want to believe he drove with it, because that would be crazy. And out waiting for him is Mean Gia Miller, the hardest working woman in TNA. And that proves it, because she was waiting in the parking lot for this interview. You got to give the woman credit. You got to give her credit. She knows how to get her scoops. She talks to Nick and asks him about his matchup with Josh Alexander later tonight in the main event. What up, Hunter Iggy? How you doing? Thank you so much for being here. We always appreciate you here at the Market Down Podcast. Even if it is just me tonight, I appreciate the company. I don't know if you got to see Impact tonight. It was an excellent episode that TNA put out. If you didn't, I promise you I will give you a great recap. And if you did, tell me what you liked about the show and tell me what you think about what I'm saying. And by the way, guys, I do apologize. I do got to deal with social media because I am by myself. And no producer boy. See, we're like the little indie that could. We're not quite on the same budget as Dynamite or WWE on Monday and Friday here at the pod. So when it's just me, I'm a one-man show through and through. So it's me doing everything. That's why everything's so delayed. But just bear with me as I deal with our friends on X and Facebook and all forms of social media. Thank you for joining us, no matter the platform. But yeah, Nemeth talks about it. He's been looking forward to wrestling Josh Alexander for years. He's been looking forward to this matchup for a very long time. But this isn't the same man that he's been looking forward to wrestling. This isn't the longest reigning heart and soul of TNA, Josh Alexander. This is a very different guy, and this is a man who attacked his family, and that means all bets are off. He said by the end of this, he is going to be standing tall over Josh Alexander, retaining his TNA World Championship. There is something, I'm going to say it. I know a lot of us, myself included, got really tired with Nick by the end of his WWE run. Nick being formerly known as Dolph Ziggler. And it was never because he was doing anything wrong. It was just, he was a guy we've seen doing the same, admittedly great work consistently for years. It got to a point that no matter how good he sounded, no matter how good he looked, we've been there and we've heard that and we've seen that. But there's something special about him carrying that world championship here in TNA. It feels like he's finally unlocked the main event character he was always supposed to be. And I think this run as champion has been great so far. I know it's early, so it's not fair to really judge it. But I'm here for it. And I hope it lasts a little while. And I know, we all believe, but as much as I want Joe Hendry's star to shine and his stock to rise, I don't want to see Nic Nemeth be a flash in the pan champion either. But that'll be a discussion for a later time here at the podcast. Sorry, just finishing it here on social media, guys. But as he says that, he walks away from Gia, who looks very impressed with our champion and his car, if I'm going to be honest. And I get it. I do get it. We then go to an in-ring segment as Santino Marella brings out Matt Cardona, always ready, indie god Matt Cardona. Santino basically tries reading him the riot act, saying, "You made Steph DeLander cry." I don't even know what he actually says her last name is. Dillinger, maybe? Steph Dillinger, maybe? I don't know. It's Santino being Santino. And hitting PCO, with a brick. Not to mention, he accidentally elbowed Santino right in the jaw and leaving that jaw loose for 3 days. He calls him a wedding crasher, an uninvited guest. Cardona says, and then to make it up, Santino has a contract that he wants to present to Cardona. Cardona cuts him off, and he says that he doesn't answer to Santino. He doesn't answer to TNA. He's not just a free agent. He is the agent. He says that if Santino keeps running his mouth, he'll hit Santino again. Santino Marella does not take this lying down. He says he got him. He's got proof now in front of the entire audience on TV, on camera, that he threatened bodily harm on Santino. And if he learned anything from watching the TV show Columbo, it's 2024. It's 2024, and we got a Columbo reference. He said if he's learned anything from watching Columbo, he knows how to work the legal system. And he says that if Cardona does not sign the contract, he will press charges against Cardona, and he will send him to jail. Cardona says he would not last long in jail. And Santino says, yes, he's a very appealing and desirable person for jail. I don't know what this segment was, guys. I don't know what the hell this was. Cardona says if everything is okay with the contract, after he shows it to his lawyer, he will sign it and he will face PCO in Tampa. Wow. It was fun. It was silly. I don't know what this feud is with PCO, with Steph and everybody, but it's something. It's definitely on the more colorful side for TNA, and I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. But wow, it is something. We then move on to a vignette with Steve Macklin. Now, before the vignette with Macklin, we see a digital exclusive from last week's episode of Impact, where Eric Young confronts Frankie Kazarian. Frankie Kazarian, who at this point has his revelation of cashing in the X Division Championship for Option C. Eric Young says does he really think it's going to be that easy He's the one who cost him the opportunity to win the TNA World Championship for the third time in his hometown, or 15 minutes from his hometown. Do you think he's just going to let that stand? As they're going back and forth, whining at one another, Steve Maclin walks in and he says he can't believe that these two TNA originals are just crying like babies. He asks if, let me see, what time are we on this? Can I curse yet? Yeah, we're good. I can curse. He asks him, did their balls drop off? Frankie thinks that he's just talking to Eric Young, and he's like, sick burn. And he says, that was for you too. I thought that was a great bit. Frankie is admittedly really killing it with the King of TNA gimmick. He is a fun, delusional heel. Kazarian then walks off saying he's got important business to deal with, and then Maclin stares down Eric Young. This then leads to the vignette for Maclin, where he talks about how since Slammiversary, things haven't really been going to plan, and that his main plan now is to go back after the TNA World Championship and to stack as many bodies on top of each other as he has to get there. He mentions all the usual suspects: Joe Hendry, Josh Alexander, Moose, Nic Nemeth, but Frankie Kazarian, but he also mentions Eric Young. And he says Eric Young is at the top of his list. He says that they've never wrestled before, which is kind of mind-boggling at this point. Considering all the companies they've been in together, this is crazy to me. But they've never wrestled before, and he wants to change that. He says Eric Young might be the heart of TNA, but Steve Maclin is the blood that pumps through this company. Eric Young will be the first body on top of his journey back to the TNA World Championship, and it's all about tagging him, bagging him, and full-on mayhem. I don't know how I feel. I mean, I'm always going to be happy to see Maclin getting praise, getting love, and getting spotlight, but it feels weird that he's already back to being a heel. It felt like we were really building to this babyface run, and unless there's something that I don't know that happened backstage with somebody else being unavailable, I don't know why we decided to go this way so quickly. I don't know why we decided to revert back to heel Maclin, or at the very least, I guess maybe tweener Maclin. I don't really know. Like I said, I'm all for him going for the TNA World Championship. I am all for him building his way back up, but I don't want to see him be the bad guy again. I just don't. Although he is a great heel, I will acknowledge that. We then go back to the ring to our second matchup of the night, which sounds crazy, but considering how much time the main event got, I get it. We get Tasha Steelz versus Giselle Shaw in a knockouts match. Now, this matchup has a little bit of history, as both of these women have wrestled already several times. I believe Giselle got the initial victory in the feud when she returned back to TNA, and then Tasha got the next two wins, having cheated. Last week, she was bragging at the expense of Giselle Shaw, and this irritated Giselle, who wanted to fight then and there. Santino then decided to book this match for this week with extra referees at ringside. I think in total we had 3 referees, 1 on the inside and 2 on the outside. And boy, did they come into play. They really did. This was a match of shenanigans, or I should say attempted shenanigans, as Tasha Steelz repeatedly tried cheating, but repeatedly got thwarted by the referee corps. Now, this is going to raise a very interesting question as far, like, I hope I'm not poking the bear here and I'm asking questions that I shouldn't be. If you can do this for this match, why don't you do this for every match? Like, again, I understand this is wrestling. There should be shenanigans in wrestling from time to time. There should be some messy matches where cheating happens. It helps build heel character. But if you can justify this for a feud that has no stakes, there's no championship involved, there's no championship implications, not really. I mean, I'm sure the winner of this match, which I'll tell you in a second, is going to be closer to the Knockouts title than before, but this wasn't a number 1 contenders match. So if you could do this for this feud with no stakes, why don't you do it for all of your matches then, is the question. I don't know. But it did certainly make sense for this matchup, as Tasha tried using a wrench at one point, and was thwarted by one referee on the outside. And then after trying to use the ropes for leverage on a pin against Giselle, the other referee knocked her feet off the rope. No opportunity to cheat here for Tasha Steelz, and it would bite her in the butt, as Giselle Shaw did pick up the victory. But I don't want to skip over the match itself, as there were some gnarly spots in this matchup. There was one point where Giselle hit a backdrop onto Tasha and dropped her on her head. It was scary. Thankfully, it seems like everyone's okay. Thankfully, it seems like nobody got hurt in that instance, and Tasha's okay. But just wowza, that was rough to see. And then there was a huge jawbreaker. It looked like a code breaker, but they called it a jawbreaker. That Tasha hit onto Giselle, that sent Giselle flipping and going face first right onto the mat. It was a great spot. Again, everyone seems safe, everyone seems healthy and okay, but just wowie. The finish coming as Tasha, having again tried to cheat with her foot on the ropes, gets distracted by the referee and turns into a rapid spin kick by Giselle, and this allows her to then hit her running knee finisher, getting the 1-2-3, and presumably ending this feud. This is their fourth matchup, and they are, I believe, tied now 2-2. So, as I say it, I hear that we're probably going to get a fifth match. Speaking it out loud, we're going to get that fifth match, but that's okay. These two women are killing it. And how fun and refreshing is it to see women's matchups on TV that don't involve a championship? I know AEW's doing it. WWE's trying. They're trying. But regardless, good matchup between these two women, and whether or not this is the finish or not, this has been a satisfying feud so far. Moving on, we go immediately backstage as we see Mike Santana laying on the ground, beaten down, with the system standing on top of him. Not on top of him, but behind him. We then go to ringside after we come back from the commercial break, and the system come out. The system, Moose is supposed to be wrestling Mike Santana in this match, but Alicia, who always has something to say, comes out and says, by the way, they're still wearing the red, white, and blue attire from Slammiversary. We're in Florida now. It doesn't even make sense. But regardless, she says that Mike Santana is not medically cleared tonight, so it looks like Moose has the night off. Of course, then Santana's music plays, and they cut to backstage where he's telling the trainer that he can wrestle tonight, and he will. He then walks through the crowd to get to the ring, but he's holding his, I believe it was his right arm. As he's making his way through the crowd and over the barricade, he takes out Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards, and then he gets in the ring and gets rid of JDC, Johnny Daniel Curtis. This then leads to our actual match. And for what was a very one-sided beatdown, this had some time. It felt way longer than it actually was. We clocked this in around 12 minutes, but for the most part, Moose was just destroying Santana, who was selling the injury from the back. He just kept working the arm, working him on the outside, and Santana is doing everything he can to rally, to survive, and to overcome. Eventually, Santana is able to roll up Moose for a 2 count. He then gives Moose a rolling cutter and then a cannonball, again, only getting a 2 count. Santana then gives Moose his spinning clothesline, the spin the block finish, but only gets a 2 count. Moose then rolled out, and as he then yanks the arm of Santana. Santana then tries hitting a comeback, but he is met with a spear, and that leads to the 1-2-3 for Moose. After the bell rang, all of the system is closing in on Santana, prepared to continue the attack, and that's when we hear the music and we believe in Joe Hendry. Hendry comes out with a chair in hand for the save, pushes off all of the system. He then gets on the microphone and then says that the system has been making enemies of everyone. They have made enemies of himself. They've made enemies of Mike Santana, and they are not alone. The next week, it will be Moose and JDC taking on Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy, a returning Jeff Hardy, who we have not seen since the system took him out before Slammiversary. So I think this worked in a lot of ways. I think it establishes Moose again as a dominant, cheating monster of a heel. And it establishes how resilient, how persevering Santana is. This is a man who will not be put down, and he will fight until his last breath. I thought this was great. I think they're definitely very clearly investing in Mike, and I wish him well. I wish him well. I think there are other guys right now, personally, that I'd rather see ahead of him in the title picture, but I'd be lying if I said that I don't want to see him tangling it up with the likes of Nic Nemeth or eventually Joe Hendry or whoever else might be in the world title scene. Maybe Josh Alexander still. Great segment. It's hard to call this a match. It was, obviously, this was a matchup, but it was really more of an extended beatdown with belts. So, regardless, good showing for both men. And, of course, it's always great to see Joe Hendry. We then go to a backstage segment with Spitfire. Spitfire, who are sick and tired of Militia cheating and getting wins over them and keeping those TNA Knockout Tag Team Championships. They challenge them one more time, going as far as to say they dare them. They dare them to bring it to them. So we'll see if Spitfire is able to regain the Knockouts tag titles from Militia, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I nothing against Spitfire. I like Danny Luna. I like Jody Threat, but man, it would be really cool to see the Knockouts tag titles not bouncing back and forth between the same champions over and over and over. But what do I know? Just a mark. We then go elsewhere backstage. I guess this was from last week, as we go to another knockout segment, as the Knockouts World Champion Jordynne Grace is fuming. She is furious, as we saw a recap of what happened last week, as Ash by Elegance got involved in her open challenge, which was answered by Rosemary. And Jordynne talks about how she overestimated Ash by Elegance. She made a mistake by expecting too much of Ash, by expecting her to move on after taking her loss and going on to bigger and better and trying to better herself. She says now Ash by Elegance didn't just ruin her own opportunity, she's ruining other people's opportunities, and she's ruining Jordynne's legacy. Comment here. I'm Jesse Guerin. This match was awesome. Which match, Jesse? I maybe the was it Santana and Moose? Because if so, I agree. I think it told a very, very awesome story. But welcome to the party, Jesse. Thank you for joining us here tonight, and I hope you liked tonight's Impact. I certainly did. But Jordynne says that she's now trying to that Ash by Elegance is trying to ruin her legacy, and Jordynne has worked too hard over the last 7 years to let that happen. She may be a wrestler's wrestler, but if Ash by Elegance wants a fight, she's gonna give it to her. Jesse, yeah, you're right. Jordynne is awesome. Jordynne is absolutely awesome. So I'm very excited to see this feud continue. There was a point where I thought that Ash was absolutely going to be the person to take the title off Jordynne. Now I'm not so sure. I don't know with how this TNA NXT relationship is going, with all of these open challenges that Jordynne's been doing that have been answered by NXT talent, that they're looking to take this title off of her anytime soon. And we're really, really, really leaning into her legacy, which, granted, well earned. Well earned. She, at this point, you can make a big argument that she is up there with the likes of Gail Kim, Awesome Kong, Mickey James. I put her absolutely on that Knockouts Mount Rushmore. So I think there are very few that could compete with her in the modern era. I'd probably put Deonna Purrazzo on some level. It's tough because of how often she's been back and forth, but Chelsea Green. But Jordan absolutely is, no pun intended, a juggernaut of the Knockouts division. But good segment, and let's see. At the very least, maybe we might get a triple threat now with Rosemary, who had her opportunity taken from her by Ash by Elegance. We then move to our next Ultimate X qualifier match, as we saw Jason Hotch take on Ace Austin, yes, one half of ABC and one half of the TNA Tag Team Champions, and Rich Swann. Of course, if Rich Swann is wrestling, that means AJ Francis isn't too far behind, and he joined commentary for this matchup. This was a fun match, a lot of fast-paced action. It was very quick, though. That was the only thing. I think this tagged in around 6 minutes. It never really got into that final gear that it could have. AJ was great to suffer all of these guys. Internet being weird. Whoopsies. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I'm doing my best. Oh, there you go. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Again, when you're by yourself, it's rough out here. Oh boy, I might have to all right, I'm doing my best. I'm probably going to have to wrap this up sooner than I wanted, especially with this main event that I really want to talk about. But yes, Jason Hotch got the win, rolling up Ace Austin after a distraction on Skylar at ringside, and now we have a good hand in the match. Very surprising, very not someone I expected to see in this matchup at all. But good for him and good for the good hands. Oh, man, I really hope this figures itself out very soon. We then go to a backstage segment with Matt Cardona and Santino Marella. Matt is ready to sign the contract, but he plans on pushing another match to Santino. He says that match is good, but he's got a better one to give him, and that is Matt Cardona with two mystery partners against PCO and his wedding party, which would be Rhino and Zion Brookside. By the way, it looks like I'm back, so I really apologize, guys. I'm going to really do my best to be quick about this and move forward as fast as I can, while also giving you guys a full breakdown. Santino loved that idea. He was all for it. He says, maybe this Matt Cardona guy is not so bad after all. And then we get ready for our main event, as we have the TNA World Championship on the line, as Nic Nemeth, our TNA World Champion, defends against Josh Alexander. Now, guys, this match, as the kids say, cooked. This match absolutely delivered. It gave us a little bit of everything. We got some shenanigans. We got some mat wrestling. We got some hard-hitting offense from both guys. And I adored it. I adored it. If you're going to watch a match this week on TNA television, it is absolutely this title match between Nic Nemeth and Josh Alexander. So right out the gate, like I said, they did some mat wrestling, and Josh Alexander goes to the outside to regroup. As Alexander starts to get the upper hand on Nemeth, the crowd starts to boo him. And of course, we get USA chants because he's Canadian. And we got to be better than that, guys. We got to be better than that. Alexander was then knocked off the top rope by Nemeth. Alexander recovers, but he missed a moonsault from the top rope, and Nemeth makes his comeback. Josh then dumped Nemeth over the top rope and onto the floor. Nic then hits Alexander with just a flurry of offense, and Nemeth then drops a series of 10 elbows. You know it. We've seen it. He's great at it. Onto Alexander, scoring a 2 count. The fans then chant 10 more times at Nemeth. That's a fun one. That's absolutely a fun one. But Josh is able to lock in an ankle lock onto Nic, but Nemeth is eventually able to escape. Nemeth then gives Alexander a famouser, only getting a 2 count. Josh then fights off a danger zone attempt, and Nic escapes a C4 spike attempt. Josh then catches Nemeth with a flying knee, only getting a 2 count. Alexander then goes for another ankle lock, but Nemeth is once again able to escape, and then he locks in a sleeper hold of his own onto the mat, keeping Josh grounded. Eventually, he's able to break out, and both men are fighting back and forth. Nemeth then goes for a danger zone onto Josh again, but he couldn't get, this time hitting it, but he can't get a cover. Josh having rolled to the outside, where Nemeth meets him and then hits a big DDT. Nemeth again only gets a 2 count once they get back into the ring, and the fans are just going crazy. Josh then throws Nemeth into the ring post and into the turnbuckle with a pretty gnarly snake eyes. Nemeth then goes for another C4 spike, which Nic is able to counter, and then goes for a danger zone, hitting it. But as he's going for the pin, the bell rings, and Jade announces that we have hit a time limit draw. They have reached a full 30-minute match. It felt like they gave us a lot, but it didn't feel like the full 30 minutes because this was zooming by. These two guys really delivered. After the announcement, Nemeth isn't done, and he asks for 5 more minutes. He goes to the ref, he goes to the crowd, and everybody seems to be in for it. Josh contemplates for a second, but he says no, and he leaves the ring. Nic then chases after him and throws him back in the ring, where Josh then low blows him with a gnarly kick to the gonads. After Nemeth is dropped, Josh then says 5 more minutes, right? 5 more minutes. He wants it now. The referee refuses. He then chases her out of the ring. A very scary moment. Don't do that, Josh Alexander. He then grabs the belt. The fans are furious. He mounts Nemeth and then tells him that the belt belongs to him. Josh then throws the belt down, leaves the ring, standing tall and smarmy. But guys, that was TNA. That was Impact. And technical difficulties aside, it wasn't that long. It felt like an eternity, but I think it was only 30 seconds. This was the Gym Pack Zone. Thank you guys so much for checking out the episode tonight. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me. You know the deal. If you're new here and you're just checking us out for the first time, thank you. I don't know what brought you in, but I appreciate it. If you want to see more of us, we cover all of the wrestling. All of the wrestling, all of the time, all of the weeks. We cover WWE, we cover AEW. Of course, we're here for TNA. We cover every major pay-per-view, and we cover what other big moments the world of wrestling is here to show us. If you want to check us out elsewhere, because you can't get enough of us, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on X. Are there other social medias? I don't know. Maybe. If you want to see us somewhere, let us know. But we're definitely there. We've got some fun stuff. Matt's definitely been killing it on the social media front lately. So go check out his funny stuff. We have Seinfeld. What's the deal with wrestling? I'm ashamed of myself. That was bad. So I'm sorry. But forgive me because you love me. And this is the Gym Pack Zone, where I am James Gisanti and I cover all things TNA and Impact. Guys, we are so close to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We are 15 away. Check out social media in the next couple of days. Starting tomorrow, we are going to have some very fun stuff announced. All right. So if you want to win stuff, check us out on social media. I'm going to do my best to make a post on YouTube. I don't quite know how to do that. I'm very technologically deficient, but I appreciate you having patience with me. Guys, have a great night. As always, watch wrestling, and of course, watch TNA. Later.